Hello, you guys. Today I'm going to be doing my persuasion. Talk about my persuasion outline. Um, Today I want to talk about what it takes to create positive change and, one's individual perspective. Creating positive changes actually starts with the recognition that's necessary to move forward with one perspective on what they should be changing in the first place. Um, the starting key factor, which is most important to push change, is self reflection. That's actually the first thing that you guys should already know. You should start off with. You have to recognize, uh, what you might be doing wrong. Perseverance is also needed because if you keep yourself determined long enough, you'll be able to achieve your goals in life. Now, the purpose of this is, to give you a better understanding of how, self reflection, perseverance, and self improvement are the key components to pushing positive change, both in your life and on an individual level as well. Now, when it comes down to that, because, self improvement, it can't start without self reflection. You can't start improving yourself if you don't even know what you need to prove in the first place. You gotta sit back and try to think about that. But yeah, so it does start off with it can't start off with self-reflection. No, well, it has to start off with self-reflection, and self-reflection can't start without perseverance. So basically what I'm saying is that you actually need both, and you have to have the willingness to change in the first place. So all three factors, which again is self-reflection, moving on to self-improvement, then perseverance through it, all three of those factors are vital for the change and must be properly executed and correct in the correct process to create, a permanent long-term change in the first place. So yeah, so I'm basically here, to motivate you and to, just take this first step to improve in life so that you can see a change in the first place. Now, in specific areas of interest when it comes to personal growth, self-reflection, self-improvement, and perseverance, yes again, they all plays a role in what traits one may need to what one may want to change and need to change actually because you can't it can't happen without each other. You need one and the other to move forward. You can't have, let's say, you can't try to like I said before, you can't just try to self improve if you don't even know what you can take a step back to think about what you need to improve in the first place. Now, yeah, so when it comes down, they need each other. It's an individual, yeah, so it's an individual process where you need each other. You can't have one without the other. Um, in each individual process to change oneself, your behavior or personality traits will differ based on those factors, however. But when it comes down to personal growth, I believe like it takes time throughout our lives from children and adults to tend to change naturally with time. However, as individuals, and some outcomes can be positive. Therefore, it's specifically important to team. I mean, not to team to learn and understand the process of change in order to result. In order for I'm sorry, in order for you to see results in a specific change or the desire that you want. Now, basically, what I'm trying to say is all my thesis is all forms of change, whether it's change from habits, change from views, opinions, perspectives, behavior. Now all that comes from recognizing one's behavior and that you might change, that you need to change. Now that introduces basically the process of change, which is self-reflection, self-improvement, and yet again, that's the perseverance. Now I want to ask you guys a question. Okay, so you might ask me a question. What do most successful people have in common? Gotta sit back and think about that. Well, basically, they all have, personal changes they made, personal changes to get to where they are today. It's proven from positive changes along with, perseverance and things like that. That has created the best outcome for those who are, very ambitious. That's where, yeah, very ambitious, and have the need to, have big goals in life. When someone's successful, um, when someone successful sees that the people around them have made positive changes to reach their goals, they tend to, pay attention to the most, changes. They tend to pay attention to the changes that they need frequently in their life too, and also, yeah, that's what they tend to do. They tend to pay attention to those changes. I mean, so basically, when it comes down to that, like the people you surround yourself by, honestly, like that can make an effect in your life, of what you do. So basically that's how change starts, by paying attention to people who are making positive changes around you. Now, the reason to listen, I think, is the reason is why I want you guys to listen is so because I want you guys all to, to make a positive change. And because overall it's been proven, to have better results and outcomes based on the change. And another reason why is you may want to listen because most positive thinking people in life has also contributed those positive thoughts towards positive change. Now, all forms of change happen in the same process, starting like again with self reflection, which creates self improvement, which pushes perseverance. And the positive outcome you may have from the process depends on what changing factors you might want to change in the first place. So, there's been listen, there's been many, like, as for credibility, there's been many motivational speakers who have, attribute their success to positive thinking about how positive thinking changes what how positive changes themselves. Now, the top motivational speaker and experts in the field of change includes, but are not limited to this person. What's his name? Tony Tony Robinson. I mean, not Robinson. I'm sorry, you guys. Tony Robbins. He's talking about he's a self help guru. He's a motivational speaker. He's a professional life coach and things of that nature. There's also Les Brown. He's a motivational speaker too. He's New York Times best-selling author of positive change. So it's pretty big. Now, also you have experts like psychologists like John C. Maxwell and Napoleon Hill. They wrote books. I think they wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. I think that's the name of it, if I'm not confused. Think and Grow Rich, and basically it entails, how positive change along with positive thinking creates, large sum of wealth in the early 18th and 19th century. Those who study in, statistics, were actually proven by Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich. All right, you guys. Now, first, I want you to understand the importance of change, and I'm going to discuss, the process of how it creates, indefinitely. Second, I'm going to discuss with you guys how each process must be followed. It must be followed specifically way to obtain the best results. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the different perspectives and solutions on how to have, long-term positive changes based on, repeating specific habits. So, yeah, when it comes down to the first point, all forms of changes happen in the same process, which starts off with self-reflection, which creates self-improvement, which pushes perseverance. The positive outcomes you may have from it depends on what changing you believe that you might want to change in the first place. So first, I believe we have to understand the process. The process of change, and change begins with self-reflection. You know, um, Then there's self-improvement, and you push perseverance. So those are the first those are the steps when it comes down to it actually. So I'm going to get a little bit deeper into what's it called um, self reflection. So that's what I'm actually going to get a little bit deeper into. Now, the first process in bringing change is one's like because this is what they call it. So they call it one's thought process and mindset. To start with self reflection. Self reflection can be broken down into several different ways based on each individual person. Now, the definition of self reflection uh, it's very based on opinion. It's not. It's everyone thinks it's different. But experts say self reflection is the ability to look at oneself and evaluate your behavior. No, not just behavior, but your thoughts and your actions, all that as well. So it's all in one. Now, self reflection and behavior are actually studied by behavior psychologists. This ability means you are able to analyze your own behavior, based on your behavior patterns, which helps you evaluate uh, if your behavior is good, if it's bad, or needs improvement. Now, psychologists suggest that your mind state, your mindset has a lot to do with how people act and think of that shapes their views and opinions. But um, understanding like your thought process and how you think about your mindset, being able to think about your thought process and view yourself and others and the world around you, it actually helps shape and change your mindset when you reflect on your beliefs and your opinions. Reflecting on your personality actually is that's also vital because you know yourself and it's like reflecting on yourself and who you are. So when you look at your personality traits, determining what traits are bad and good, I know like that helps to change an individual personality based on the traits they wish to change in the first place. Now, the second one, like the second form of change, once you have self reflected on what needs to be changed, is to start forming habits of self reflection. So let's look at recognizing behavior patterns, recognizing how you act when you're upset and how you behave when you're depressed. You know, to examine like your actions with your behavior based on those emotions. So pinpointing why, how, and what, like based on your behavior response, lets you know why you respond in a specific type of way. So if you are upset and you know why you are upset, understanding how like it affects your behavior is like really important. So if the behavior is negative, then that would mean that the behavior trait needs to be changed. Like that's obvious, needs to be changed. So let me give you an example. Okay, for example, getting upset because let's say you lost your remote control and you throw a chair. That explains why you're upset and explains the emotions and the behavior, which is aggressive behavior by throwing a chair in the first place. You shouldn't have did that. That basically shows you how your behavior is negative. Now, looking at personality means if there's specific like especially trust uh like if there's like something that you don't like and you want to change and like recognize you have to recognize that trait first. You have to recognize what you're doing. Using okay, so using the previous example, you guys, like out of anger, that makes you aggressive. Then the trait that must be changed is an aggressive behavior within your personality trait. Your personality traits will differ based on who you are. So, and and how your behavior is based on what those traits are like. So yeah, um, honestly, so yeah, you could keep that example in mind when it comes down to self-reflecting. Thinking about, okay, why am I acting like this in the first place? So uh, yeah, I think that's kind of crazy, but all right. So when it comes down to reflecting on your thoughts and your views and what your general mentality, that just helps you to understand if your mindset is negative or positive, because someone's mindset can be negative or positive based on their personal opinion or someone else's opinion. Determine if you have a negative or positive mindset. They'll all boil down to your opinion of what you think is negative or positive, not necessarily somebody else's. Okay, so now that I've explained, the process of self-reflection, and thinking about all that, about what you need to change, and I told you about like what it entails. To self-reflect, I'm not going to discuss, what you have to do after you did the self reflection process of your personality traits, your mindset, and your behavior that you want to change. So the second stage, of this process is to change after you have self-reflected is self-improvement. So what does self-improvement look like, and what does it entail? Well, self-improvement, basically, to just break it down, self-improvement is the ability to improve your personality traits that you want to change within yourself. um, Self-improvement happens, after you recognize that, that a trait needs to be improved in the first place. So the level of improvement actually depends on, how much the trait needs to be improved in the first place. There are different variables of how far a trait should be improved based on what the trait is. So once the trait, is improved, there are, specific habits that must be made to help to hold that trait long term. So once that habit has become ingrained into who you are as a person, that's when, the trait has actually changed. That's, because it's, forming who you are. So recognizing when a trait is, improving and when it's not improving, I think that's very important. Sometimes there may be different methods of how to improve a trait. Different methods work with different people, and which is why there's different factors to change each trait based on the individual personality. Um, if a particular trait does not improve a specific trait, then there must be another method that will improve that trait. So when given solutions to self-improvement, it must be based on different habits and methods that can help improve specific traits that you're trying to change within yourself. All right, so although self-improving traits must be maybe like more of a process, because you have to actually put in the work to change the trait. Perseverance now is what actually needed to change the trait until the trait is becomes a positive trait. And so basically the last step is making sure that your trait, your mindset, your behavior that you choose to change is permanent. Is the So perseverance helps maintain those traits. um yeah, so basically now we're going to be like moving on into perseverance and what that consists of, and things of that nature. So to hop right into perseverance, perseverance, like to go into perseverance, is it's basically the ability to be persistent in doing something despite difficulty, like difficult problems, right? Doing like difficulty, like while trying to achieve that success. Although the difficulty is existent, it doesn't have to. It's not it shouldn't persuade you to give up quickly or anything like that. So basically, if you're having a hard time, don't give up quickly. And, perseverance, you should be able to keep on pushing. If I'm doing this wrong, get back up and push again. So what does perseverance mean when it comes down to making a change to one's personal behavior, mindset, and personality? Well, perseverance when it comes down to personal means that the person is determined to keep those changes regardless of the difficulty to change in the first place. No, so however, it's going to take long for those changes to occur. It's depending on like how persistent the person is when it comes down to making sure that those changes will occur in the first place. So the change will not occur if the person is not persistent enough, or the method of change is not even effective enough. If the person is, if it's persistent, if the person persistent to maintain the change, and making sure that it happens. No, if the person, is not persistent and are not like the change will default back to, the original trait before it changed. So basically what I'm trying to say is like, if you're not even persistent with what you're doing, then you're going to just fall back to how things were in the first place. So if a person doesn't have perseverance to change, they'll ultimately go back to how they were before they were even tempted to change. And change. And so when it comes down to change and self-improvement, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen if perseverance is not involved. So there may be several reasons why a person might not have perseverance to change. There's several reasons why people don't have reasons to change. Perseverance, is something that must be developed, as well as to push positive change within self-improvement. If one does not have perseverance, then they will also not have the desire to change the trait in the first place. If they have the desire to change, if the desire to change doesn't exist within the individual's perspective of that trait, then sorry, but the change is never going to occur. Honestly, it's not. I mean, you actually have to push yourself and really be willing to change. In order for you to get through it. Because that's what it comes down to. That's when it comes down to persistent. You have to be persistent. That's what it takes. All right, you guys. So now that I've gone over all three processes regarding personal development, I hope you guys have an understanding of what it takes to create positive change. The process to create change, it doesn't change based on your perspective on how to create change. It's more based on self-reflection, followed by self-improvement, and then having the perseverance to maintain that change. Now, okay, so now that I've broken down, the process of what levels of change you are in, it should be a lot easier to understand the levels of positive change. All right, so finally, by following the three stages of change, you can, effectively change your behavior. Again, I said your behavior, your mindset, your personality traits in the same order based on the process, beginning with self-reflection, self-improvement, and perseverance to maintain the change. So all forms of changes happen, in that same process. The process of self-reflection, which creates improvement, which pushes perseverance, and the positive outcome you may have from that process. It depends on different factors you have to try. So if you really want to create change within yourself, you guys, as an individual, it all starts from understanding just those processes of changing. The self-reflection, self-improvement, and the perseverance to change. Change is just like it's like any other form of change. It will take hard work and it will take discipline when it comes down to it. When you go to the gym, you can't just go to the gym one time and boom, expect to have results. You must be persistent and have the perseverance to keep going, regardless of how difficult the exercise may be. It can be pretty hard, but when you want to develop a skill, like let's say you want to develop a skill such as riding a motorcycle, it's going to take practice for you, to get better and better. Like for example, it would take the desire, to learn a skill. If it would take you the time and effort to develop that type of skill, it'll take you the perseverance to develop the skill. That's basically the three stages of how change is created in the first place. All right, you guys. So I know I'm talking a lot. So hopefully, after hearing everything that I said, I hope that you guys are actually have the strength, and the knowledge of how to create positive change. All right, thank you for listening. Bye.